Today is the second time to find out if masturbation is a sin. There is a reason Christians consider masturbation a sin. Because they consider masturbation a sexual sin. Is masturbation a sexual sin? Then, let's look at the sexual sin in the Bible. There are various sexual sins in the Bible. Sexual sins mentioned in the Bible include adultery, sodomy, incest, extramarital affairs, and homosexuality. And the most common word among sexual sins is fornication. The term also refers to the extramarital affair of a married woman or sexual intercourse with a prostitute. Adultery usually means an extramarital affair. In addition, 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 9 refers to homosexuality with boys even among homosexuality. Another sexual sin in the Bible is lewdness. This means sexual debauchery. However, nowhere in the Old and New Testaments is there any mention of masturbation. Masturbation is not on the list of many sexual offenses mentioned in the Bible. Some will call masturbation a sin based on a few passages from the Bible. Let us consider the statements that support their assertion that masturbation is a sin. First, Genesis chapter 38 verses 8 to 10. In these words, Onan ejaculates in sex with her sister-in-law. Here, Onan's sin lies not in external ejaculation but in breaking God's command because of his selfishness. Onan did not practice the custom of levirate marriage. They also say that Leviticus chapter 15 verses 16 to 17 is the basis for a sinful act of masturbation. When a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his whole body with water, and he will be unclean till evening. Any clothing or leather with semen on it must be washed with water, and it will be unclean till evening. But this also lacks justification. It is difficult to conclude that the emission of semen is the release of semen from masturbation. It is also because the issues dealt with in the text are conscious, not ethical. Now, the ceremonial law of the Old Testament times has no legal effect in the New Testament times, as was shown in Peter's vision. Any other biblical basis for asserting that masturbation is a sin has nothing to do with masturbation. So what about sexual desire in the New Testament? Let's read Matthew chapter 5 verse 28. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. This verse expresses a person who looks at a woman for sexual desire and never contains sexual fantasies. Masturbation is an imaginary act. However, this verse refers to looking at a real woman and lusting for it. In Romans chapter 1 verse 24, Paul says, "Therefore God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity for the degrading of their bodies with one another." Sinful desire here does not mean masturbation. The sexual sin that the Apostle Paul condemns here is not homosexual masturbation. In addition, 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 21, Ephesians chapter 5 verses 11 to 12, 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22, and 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verses 3 to 5 point out that sexual sins have nothing to do with masturbation. What these words condemn as sins are the adultery above, sodomy, incest, extramarital affair, and homosexuality. The Bible does not consider masturbation to be a sexual sin. Our thoughts and interpretations must not surpass the Bible. Of course, with this conclusion, others will have a different opinion. So, we will not end our discussion of masturbation here but study it in more depth. I just want to say one point. The Bible does not force you to live as an ascetic. I want you to be free in Jesus.